After the costly war, Britain searched for revenue and turned to taxing the American colonies, sparking early resentment as citizens questioned authority imposed from across the ocean. As new taxes spread across all 13 colonies, everyday life became harder. Families felt overwhelmed by distant decisions they never influenced or agreed to support. Unpopular laws like the Stamp Act and Sugar Act tightened British control, forcing colonists to pay for almost every daily necessity under strict imperial oversight. Growing frustration swept through colonial towns as people realized British taxes threatened livelihoods, pushing communities toward collective anger and the desire for meaningful resistance. The famous cry, "No taxation without representation," captured the colonists' belief that laws imposed without their voice violated basic freedoms and political rights. British leaders dismissed colonial complaints, insisting Parliament held full authority. Their cold response only deepened the divide and fueled resentment across the Atlantic world. Shops closed and economic hardship spread, as colonial merchants struggled to survive under overwhelming taxes, revealing how deeply British policies damaged everyday life. With tensions rising, colonists gathered in secret meetings, debating how much longer they could endure British control before being forced to take action. In 1773, the Tea Act granted the East India Company a powerful monopoly, signaling Britain's tightening grip and igniting outrage among American colonists. The monopoly allowed only one company to sell tea, threatening local merchants and revealing Britain's willingness to sacrifice colonial prosperity for imperial profit. American shopkeepers watched their businesses collapse as the tea monopoly destroyed competition, proving that British policies now directly harmed colonial livelihoods. For many colonists, the Tea Act became the final insult, showing Britain's disregard for fairness and pushing public anger to its breaking point. Communities gathered quietly, sharing fears and frustration. With each meeting, more colonists agreed that peaceful complaints were no longer enough to create change. The Sons of Liberty studied Boston Harbor, forming a bold plan. They believed only direct action could challenge Britain's unjust power over the colonies. To protect their identities, the rebels disguised themselves as Mohawk warriors, preparing mentally and symbolically for a dramatic act of defiance. On a cold December night, thick fog surrounded Boston Harbor as 3 British ships waited silently, unaware of the rebellion approaching. Moving quietly in the dark, the Sons of Liberty boarded the ships, determined to make a statement Britain could no longer ignore. With decisive force, the rebels cracked open the first tea crates, beginning an unprecedented act of protest against imperial authority. The first crate splashed into the harbor, marking a historic moment when ordinary colonists boldly challenged one of the world's strongest empires. Throughout the night, 342 crates were thrown overboard, the harbor filled with tea, as colonists united in a powerful, coordinated act of resistance. British sailors stood stunned, unable to intervene. They witnessed an extraordinary protest that shattered the illusion of unquestioned imperial control. As tea spread through the water, the harbor transformed into a symbol of rebellion, showing the colony's refusal to accept unfair rule. When the mission was complete, the rebels left silently. Their message was unmistakable. The colonies would no longer suffer in silence. At dawn, Boston Harbor revealed the aftermath. Floating tea marked the beginning of a confrontation that would soon reshape an entire nation. Britain reacted with fury, viewing the Tea Party as open rebellion. Leaders demanded harsh punishment to restore imperial authority and control. The coercive acts were passed swiftly, enforcing strict punishment on Boston and signaling Britain's determination to crush colonial resistance entirely. Redcoat troops closed Boston Harbor with heavy chains, cutting off trade and isolating the city as a warning to all 13 colonies. Redcoat soldiers filled the streets, enforcing British control. Their presence created fear, but it also strengthened the colonists' determination. Rather than divide the colonies, British punishment united them. Communities realized they needed collective action to defend their freedoms. Delegates from across the colonies formed the First Continental Congress, marking the beginning of organized political resistance to British rule. Pamphlets calling for independence spread rapidly. More colonists embraced the idea that liberty required standing against British domination. Militia groups trained daily, preparing for conflict. Ordinary farmers transformed into citizen soldiers ready to defend their rights. The Tea Party became a symbol of defiance, showing how ordinary people could challenge injustice and demand the rights they deserved. Across the colonies, a new identity slowly formed. People recognized that unity and shared purpose could ignite the fight for independence. History preserved the story of the Tea Party, reminding future generations how courage and conviction shaped the nation's struggle for freedom. The image of falling tea became a powerful metaphor, representing the moment Americans chose resistance over submission. From scattered acts of rebellion, a national identity emerged. The dream of a free America began forming long before independence was declared. As dawn rose on a changing world, the colonies moved toward revolution, believing freedom was worth every sacrifice they might face.